Hello everyone, welcome to this next session on Anubhav Learning Series. Thank you so much for appreciating Anubhav Learning Series and sending me a lot of emails, a lot of questions and feedback about your topics which we covered by far in Learning Series. Please note that Anubhav Learning Series is specially designed for people who are already comfortable with SAP UI5 and Fiori, or those who have already taken my course on SAP UI5 and Fiori on Web IDE with XML view without any copy paste. In these learning series videos, we will cover advanced topics rather than leaving the basics behind, which are already covered in the training. We will cover here some more little advanced topics or topics which are not part of our training. So today's topic, we will be looking into a couple of interesting points. We will see how to display currency symbols instead of currency key is part of your table when you are applying a formatter. We will talk about how can you use custom styling in SAP UI5. To achieve that, we have an example to enable alternate row color for the UI5 table. We have used here sap.ui.table control. This was another question I was browsing other day the internet, and I found this question very interesting. Many of you have asked these questions in the past. Also, there are a lot of questions on SDN about it, and there are few satisfactory answer on the same or none. So this is the reason I thought why not to include this also in learning series. Then how to add dynamically a field to a simple form or adding a column to dynamically to the table control. And finally, we will discuss about what is UI5 Inspector. How can SAP Ui5 Inspector helps us to analyze the structure of our application. So let us go ahead and now proceed and see how can we achieve all these tasks in one single session of learning series. So if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel by far, I would recommend you to please do that. Otherwise, you will miss these free videos on latest topics and different topics. So please hit the bell icon if you have not done that by far. So subscribing to the YouTube channel will definitely help you big time. Getting these free videos, it takes a lot of effort and time for me to create these videos. So please do share your comments. Please do share your likes. Please do share what do you feel about these topics. And also, if you have not subscribed to the course by far, I recommend you to do that before jumping to the learning series. I would highly recommend you to please go through my course first of all. Now, where can you access the learning series? As you already aware, you can go to onlinefiorytrainings.com, and there you have this free learning series available with the complete source code, presentation, and all the project data. So you can check it out, Anubhav Learning Series here on my website. And here you can see a lot of different free videos. If you feel that my contribution to you is helpful, please don't hesitate to donate something, because it takes a lot of effort for us to bring these videos for you. So in this, we will get all the list of these videos. Okay, so that's what will happen. So let's move on and see what we have done by far in our course. We have prepared a very simple example where we have tried all four types of bindings, including formatter function in UI5, as you're already aware. So this is our UI5 project, complete proper project structure we had built. And make sure that you don't do any copy paste of code when you're doing this. If you are doing copy paste of code, you are cheating yourself and you are not learning good things. Many times I observe people just simply go to internet, they copy paste the code, their output will come, but you will be suffered later point of time when a production issue hits, because that's not the right way of learning things. You will be caught easily if you're doing copy paste of code. Let's run this up, and it's a good practice that I would run this into another tab. I'll just go in there and press enter, and you would see I would get some data over here. All right, so that's my test data, you can see, and there's a nice table here, SAP UI table control, and below there's a simple form, and next to that we have a couple of buttons. Yeah, So that's what we do have right now as part of our app. And let's start with each topic one by one. So the first topic is how to display currency symbol. So you can see, guys, on the top, we are able to see this real, euro, US dollars, Indian rupees, and all that. Instead of displaying this hard-coded currency key, it's my requirement to now display the currency symbol. Yeah. How can we display currency symbol? So we can easily do that, guys. It's pretty simple to achieve currency symbols with respect to each currency code. For that reason, as we already aware, we need to make use of formatter. So formatter are the functions which get supplied before the binding with the UI takes place from the model. I think you're already very much comfortable with the concept of formatter. So I will not spend more time on talking on formatter, rather than I will simply write a formatter function where we will be able to achieve this. Yeah. So let's go to the system and write a formatter function where we will be able to achieve this. So I'm going to go back and utils lifesaver.js. That's my formatter, and I have a format curr method already in here where we are just joining our currency and the salary value for the employee. So first thing which we will do is we will get the current browser locale language. So let's do that. So I will say var o browser locale, and for that reason I will talk to SAP UI5 core object. So let me zoom this up a little bit. Now I think it's visible for all of you, and double click here on the file in Web IDE to make it little visible for all of you. So that's what it's always good to do that. And now let's go ahead and call the SAP UI core library, and then from there we will get the configuration and get the current login language. So sap.ui.getCore, it's a running instance of runtime application dot configuration dot get language. If you are skeptical about any API before being used, you can just always use this API first in the console, and that will give you the confidence that whether the API will work or not. You can see it gives me my current browser local language which I have set already in the system. So that's my browser local language, English for US. Yeah, that's the current local language in the browser. And now using this local language, we need to pass this local language and get the local API of SAP UI5. So let's go and do that. I say var or locale sap.ui.core locale. In this, I will be passing this browser core setting for language, whatever language we have received. It's an input parameter for this local API of SAP UI core. Once this is done, we will just ask it to give the locale data. So var locale data, and that's a next API which will receive the locale instance as the input parameter. So SAP UI core locale data. Make sure that you put the new keyword because we're creating a new object here. And then I will say here SAP UI core locale data, and pass here this locale function, locale variable as the input parameter. So once this is done, we are finally ready to just convert this to or get the currency symbol for a given currency. So this is a reusable API. Now guys, if you put it in the formatter function, this will be called again and again and again. This piece of code will be called again and again. So it's a good practice to not keep it over here, rather keep it in some other place where you can do initialization at once, and then you can reuse it again and again, because formatter function gets called for every single binding, right? So right now I'm just showing you here, then we'll move to the best practice also. So let's copy this locale data and we can get the currency code. So I have an API in this locale data called get currency symbol. And in this we'll pass the currency. And finally we get the currency key. So let's do that. The final response which I'm sending, I'm concatenating a currency with it with this API. Superb. Let's come back and see now. I can come back and just refresh the page, and you should now see, oops, it's not working. Something is wrong. Press F12 to check it out what's going wrong. F12 is your best friend. You can also do one thing, and just come and test this piece of code. So let's paste this piece of code into the console of the browser and just check this instance. If it is there, you can see the instance is there. Locale data dot get currency symbol, and I'll just pass euro. And you see we are getting currency symbol from this API already. Something getting wrong. So let's check it out. Maybe it did not refresh properly. Sometimes it's a cache issue. Press F12. Right click on the refresh button and say empty cache and hard reload. Just do that. And now let's see what happens. So it's gonna clean the cache because UI5 sometimes it caches the resources, static resources in your browser. However, you can see the URL parameter SAP cache buster is set to true. Still, it's not working. We are missing out something. Let me go and check. In the final response, we are just concatenating this currency symbol. Maybe what I'll do is I will just put here currency symbol, and I'm going to create a variable here equals to this. And now let me go and check that now. It's still not working. Something is wrong. So it's lifesaver.js, which is our formatter. And are we missing new? So is this new keyword is the problem? No, but new keyword is not a problem. It's a method call, guys. It's not an object creation with get currency symbol. It's not an object creation. So it's not an issue with that. Maybe what I'll quickly do is I will just say no formatting. I will just directly concatenate salary with currency code. And I will print out this gentleman over here, which we were earlier doing, salary formatting, now not required. And simply concatenate the currency symbol with it and return that back. Let's come back. I think I'm running a wrong project. Let me just quickly go and check that. So lifesaver.js. Oops, guys, I understood the problem. The problem is we are not calling this formatter. We have made the change inside the formatter, but we are not calling the formatter. So we have to call the formatter from the view. Let's go back to the view. And where is our currency value? Here it is. You can see salary currency. And you see, we have directly applied the salary and currency conversion. Salary and currency formatting directly at the view level. We have not used formatter. So we have to use formatter. And now let's put here formatter. That's the object of the formatter function, formatter library, function library, and now format curr function. So now what will happen? These parameters will be passed into the formatter function, both of these parameters, and whatever the formatter produces, that goes into the text property. So that's what formatter does. So let's come back and refresh now, and I am 90% sure that it's gonna work. And there you go. Wow, nice. You can see it's getting the currency symbol. I think there is no currency symbol available for RYL currency. That's the reason it skipped it. But rest all the currencies, yen, rupees, dollar, euro, it has got all the values. Awesome. So that's what about the symbol, getting the symbol of the currency rather than getting the directly the currency name. Awesome. Let's move on to the next requirement. What about if I want alternate table row color? Guys, it's a very interesting topic. What about if I want alter row color? Like when you go to PPT and try to insert a record in, try to insert a table in the PPT, you get this alternate row color, right? It's called zebra coloring. How can you achieve this in SAP UI5? You remember in our CSS chapter, we have achieved it with the help of pseudo class using CSS. But now how do we do here with SAP UI table, right? That's very interesting. How can we achieve with SAP UI table? So now we need to go and see how this can be achieved with SAP UI table. So for that reason, we have to apply custom CSS because there is no direct method provided by SAP UI5 framework to achieve this. We have to go and look at the custom method now. So custom CSS. So let's go ahead and first add a custom CSS. So what I'll do is I'll go back to web IDE and I'm going to create a new folder, guys, first of all. And I will say new folder and I'm going to call this as CSS folder. And let me add a new file inside and I'll say my css.css file. You can name it anything of your choice. Make sure the extension has to be CSS. And now guys, as we learned in CSS chapter, there are three ways of applying the style. The selector is of three types: the ID selector, the class name selector, and the tag name selector, right? So we will be applying class name based styling most of the time. So what I'll do is I will come back to the table control and I will check it out. What's the ID of my table control? And of course, you all know that in XML view, whenever you put an ID of a control, this ID will be pre added with the view name. So view name gets automatically added. So also sometimes you don't even have ID of a control. So doing a style based on ID is always susceptible for or error prone, because if any by any case if somebody changes the ID without knowing the uses of this ID, it will be having adverse effect on your application. It would lead to regression defects. So be careful that you try to minimize your coding as much as you can on the ID basis, rather than use more like other properties. Like in last class I told you about get source API, which you can use. So like a lot of these best practices we are covering in the course. Hope you have already observed some of those best practices, and you would avoid using those error prone methodologies to write the code, which will create problems. So we have to add a class name. So for that, what I'll do is I will just quickly go back to controller, and in the init method we will get this table object. So I will say this dot get view dot by ID, and please give me the table control object. And now inside this table control object I would say please add style class. I'm going to say my class. So watch out guys, as a result of this is how we can add a custom CSS class to our SAP UI5 control. This is the API, my style class, add style class, and this is our class name. Whatever you can put, I can put here Anubhav. So now what will happen is I will get this class name in the DOM of my UI element, which is created by UI5. Let's go back and check it out. I will come back to the UI and I will reload the UI and I will press F12. And let me just go to elements, DOM elements, and press Control F and search for Anubhav. Yeah, and you can see this Anubhav form, and voila, you can see guys, system has now added along with this table control. This is our table control, and system has added an extra class called Anubhav in the DOM. That's so amazing. You can add an extra class of your choice as part of the standard DOM which SAP UI5 framework is building for your control. This has been added, and now I can use this Anubhav class to apply my custom CSS. Nice, isn't it? So let's go ahead and do that. So what we will do is we will go and tell, hey, for every alternate row inside this table control, every alternate table record, we want to apply a style over here. Let's go back and do that. I'm going to come here, my CSS, and I'll say dot Anubhav. That's last name is styling. Inside this Anubhav, you will see any table record, nth child of this table record. This is a pseudo class of CSS which we learned in the past class. And now I'll say background color. Please make it maybe aqua. Yeah. And now next one is again Anubhav. That's based on class name. Table record. Nth child. That's a pseudo class which we learned in the CSS chapter already in the past. And I'll say background color. And I will say maybe I want uh, line color. All right. That's what we are doing. We are directly giving the class name which we have added statically to our table control. Inside that, every table record element, look at the table record elements, look at its even and odd childs, and apply this style. Okay, so that's what you have to do. You can of course do it based on ID. So hashtag the exact ID which system is produced in the DOM, you have to put it, guys. So that's subjected to a change, but class name nobody will go and bother, right? People would probably change ID more as compared to the class name, though they will not touch the class name usually. ID can be changed very oftenly by another developer in your team, but they don't bother about class name. All right. So that's about my CSS. But how do you link the CSS with your page? So for that you have to use the link tag in HTML. So let's come, and I have already done that. You can see link tag. Relation type is style sheet. It's in CSS folder, and my file name is mycss.css. And then the type of the file is text/CSS. So this is how we connect our CSS file in HTML page with an external CSS. All right, let's do that. And now we have our class name already added. We have our CSS file. We have linked the CSS file, external CSS file. That's what are we waiting for? Let's come back and test it. I'm going to come back and let me just refresh. And boom, there you go. Awesome, guys. That's how you can see we have got now an alternate table coloring inside of SAP UI5 table, bypassing the standard behavior and achieving this alternate row coloring. This looks awesome. This was one of the most interesting requirement which some of my students have got, and you guys have asked this since quite long. And here we are in Anubhav Learning Series video, solving your doubt, solving your problem. My main motto with the help of Anubhav Learning Series is to solve your problem. Any problem you have, guys, any issues you are facing in UI5, please drop an email to me on my email ID anubhav.abap@gmail.com. You can always approach me. I'm approachable. I will definitely come back to you with some videos on your problems. That's my main motto. Promise me that you never copy paste the code and never learn from trainers who are teaching you copy paste, because copy paste is not the way forward. It's not the right way of learning. You will miss out the most important syntax, most important lines, most important symbols, which ideally you should understand to write an effective and a quality code. All right, let's move on to the next one. So we have seen alternate row color. What about if I want to add a column dynamically? It's very easy to add a dynamic column inside of a table. Very easy. And on the same note, very easy to add a dynamic field inside of a simple form. You just need to understand the aggregation, how the aggregation is being currently done for the controls. So let's come back and check it out. What is the aggregation, how it is being done? So I will come back here and we will look at the main view. Look at the table. In the table, we have a columns aggregation. And inside these columns, we have multiple columns being added from a column class. So ultimately, if you want to add a dynamic column, you need to create a column object dynamically using SAP UI5 API in JavaScript, and then add that to the columns aggregation of table control. Okay, so what I'll do is I will just say, hey, I would like to probably add a toolbar in the table. And once I add a toolbar, in that toolbar, I'm going to add a button. And with that button, whenever that button is clicked, a dynamic column should get added to my table. Yeah, that's what we want. So let's create a toolbar first of all. Again, this is a good practice to use SAP UI5 SDK all the time. You have to refer UI5 SDK to find the right documentation and API, as explained in my course in detail. So let's go to API reference. And now we will just quickly go back to the API for table control. And let's check it out. Ours is SAP UI table library, and we will go to table control. And let's see if I can add a toolbar to my table. Yeah, so let's come back and check it. So let's go to the aggregations, and we have columns aggregation, which is default one. Do we have any kind of toolbar or something? Let me check. Yes, we have a toolbar control, which is of type SAP UI code toolbar class. Awesome. So we can use this one. So let's use this toolbar aggregation. So I'm going to come back to the table control and I will put here my table namespace. Toolbar is in small letters and now I'm going to add a toolbar control. And inside this toolbar control, you can go inside toolbar and check its aggregation. So you can also search for toolbar here. So that's a toolbar control. And each toolbar contains further elements. The content is the default aggregation and you can add any number of controls in this. So let's add a button. And this button, I'm going to name it as add a column. And on click of this button, sorry, it's not on click. Of course, you guys know it's a press event and on add column. Let's go and put this on add column in the controller. Okay, guys, a quick trick for all of you. If you don't want to do this manually, SAP Web ID also offers you an amazing option. And that option is called SAP Ui5 Layout Editor. Maybe I will show you that next to all of you. First, let's proceed with the coding part and then maybe we'll see the layout editor option as well, which makes it easy. But guys, try to understand that certain controls doesn't come under the preview of SAP UI Layout Editor. So it's always a good practice that you know entire XML view construction. If you're not comfortable with XML views, please join my course, fundamental course on SAP UI5 and Fiori. If you have no direction where to go, if you are clueless, your company is doing a lot of stuff around you, there are a lot of projects going on, but you are helpless to get into that project, I would recommend all of you to please watch at least one video of mine on YouTube. Go and check for a video called how to become an SAP full stack developer. Please watch this video. This is going to clarify you the direction for future. If you're clueless, most of the people who come to me, they're clueless. They have no clue what's going on in the market, where the industry is moving. I would strongly recommend you to please watch this video on the YouTube, searching for how to become a SAP full stack developer. This is an amazing video which will give you the right direction. So if you have not done that, please do that, and please subscribe to my channel if you have by far not done that, because you are going to miss such powerful videos if you not subscribe and hit the bell icon on the YouTube. All right, let's come back. So that's a toolbar and added a column button, add column button with a press. And I just come here with the press and say, let's add this over here, function, comma, and then, and now let's access the object of the table control first of all. So as I mentioned, event, and we should not write a code which is dependent on ID. We should try to avoid writing ID dependent code. So let's get the table control object directly over here. Anyone, which API do you think will give me the table control object now? Anyone, can you tell me which API will give me the table control? Get source, perfect answer. Ajit has got the right answer. This is what we discussed in last to last class when I taught you the event object concept. Awesome. So since this add column, sorry guys, it won't give you because add column is actually part of this button. You see, this is an event part of the button, and button is part of toolbar. It's not a direct table event. It's not an event on table. It's an event on the button. It will give you the button object, not the table object. So we have to use by ID only to get that. So let's say this dot get view dot by ID. I'll say ID table. Please get me the table object. And I'm going to add a column now. So first prepare your column which you need to add. So I will say call dynamic column, and I will say new sap dot m dot column class. Sorry, SAP UI table column. That's a library name and that has a column. And you all remember it has two aggregation. One is label, another is template. In the label aggregation, we will see sap dot m dot text. It's a class, and I will put the text of this column as the dynamic column, and I will say new sap dot m dot column type is also going to be text. Okay, the template is going to be text, and I'll just save this. And let's just add this to the table now. First, dot add column. I am sure there must be an API called add column because table possesses an columns aggregation. Look at here. Columns is the aggregation of the table control. So definitely my table will have something called add column method. So maybe we can go and check in SDK for the table control. Let me come back to the table control. I'm going inside the SAP UI table control. Here we go. This is the table control. And inside of this table control, we will have something called aggregations. You can see this is a column segregation. There must be some method called add column or something. Yes, you see, the guess is right. Typically for every aggregation, you will have add or remove aggregation method. So you see add column method is in there. You can check the documentation and see what it does. It adds a column if it is required. Yeah, that's what it does. Let's come back. And I will just go back and column, and in this pass the code dynamically created column object. That's what we're gonna pass. Cool. That's your how to add a dynamic column. On click of this button every time a new dynamic column gets added to your table control, guys. Superb. Let's come back and check it out. Of course, there's no data because we're not doing any binding over here. So let's come back and test it. I'm going to refresh. It's possible to add is it possible to add two controls to a column? Yes, guys, it's definitely possible. Okay, you can add two controls to your template aggregation. Okay, but you have to use a combination, a control which encapsulates inside those two controls. I will show you in a minute. So now I say add column button. You see there's a toolbar and there's a add column button. I click on that, and voila, you can see my dynamic column has been added at the end of the table. You can click again, another dynamic column gets added. Wow, superb. Click again, another dynamic column gets added. Superb. That's what we wanted. So it's very easy when you know the concepts of aggregation. Very easy. On the same note, if you would like to add a dynamic field, it's also very similar. So maybe let me do the coding on the add column itself. So what I'll do is I will repeat the same steps. So what did we do here? We have done first step, get the object of the table control. Step 2, create a brand new column object. Step 3, add the column to the table. So guys, this is the way of writing. This is the way of learning, guys, SAP UI5. If you have tried ample amount of times learning UI5 and not succeeded, stop doing copy paste. It's going to take more time initially, but you're going to learn UI5 pretty easily. Okay, never copy paste, guys. Initial effort is high. Later point of time, you will proud on yourself. All right, let's come back. Similarly, on the same step, step 1, get the simple form object. Now we are going to add the content inside simple form. So content is an aggregation, add content dynamically. That's step 3 perhaps. Step 2 is create the dynamic content, create a label and a instance dynamically using JavaScript, and then finally add it. So let's do that. Var all simple start get view. I hope that's the idea of my form. Let me go and verify. Yes, it's Anubhav form. You can see that's the idea of our simple form. And now there's a content aggregation. So definitely there must be an add content API. And in this add content API, we are going to add our label, a new label I'm going to add. And inside this, once again, I'm going to add a new input field. Where are this label? Where is this input field? To create it. Come on. O label equals to new sap.ui.label. Sap.m.label control. And you can now give a text property for the label. And I'll say this is a dynamic field. And I can say var new sap.m.input field. And that's it. So that's my input, and let's pass the input, and this is how we will edit. Let's do testing now. On add button, now it's going to add a dynamic column and a dynamic input field to your simple form. Let's come back, refresh the page, and now we are ready to experience this dynamic addition. Watch out, right now we have only 4 input fields. I'm going to click on add button. Voila! You can see the dynamic field has been added now to the simple form along with the dynamic column on the top of the table. That's what was so simple, guys. And now, guys, let's do it little interesting. What I want is I don't want it to be hard-coded label. I want let the user give this label. Yeah, let the user give this label. So for that, what you can do is right now for simplicity, I'm using an inbuilt JavaScript function to accept a single character, single string input from the user to pass the label. Of course, moving on in the next subsequent classes, I will teach you how to also create a pop-up in SAP UI5. Okay. But right now, simplicity, we should ideally not do this in real time. I'm just using another JavaScript API to accept a dynamic text input from the user. Okay, that's what I will do. So this is a JavaScript API. It is part of window function which you can use to accept a single input from the user. So we have to just use that API. So what that API does, it will give you a small pop-up to the user, and then using that simple pop-up, what will happen? User will give some data, and that data will become my label for these dynamic input fields, guys. That's what we have to do. Okay, so that's what we have to do. So let me just quickly check that API. So there is an API which JavaScript gives. It's called prompt, something called prompt it is called. Okay, so just 1 second, I will check that API name. It's called prompt API. So you can ask user to prompt something, and then with that you can say, yeah. So it's called window.prompt API. Whatever user enters, that value will come inside your field. So let's go and use that prompt API. So I'm going to come back. Every time user click on add column, I'm going to prompt user first of all with the prompt API. So I say var, and I'm going to say my text equals to window.prompt. You can also test this API and say enter your dynamic name. And this my text I'm going to use as a text, whatever prompt returns me as a text for my label for my column, label for my input field, rather than fixed hard-coded text. You can see, guys. So you can also test this prompt API directly because browser directly understand JavaScript as you know, me know. So let's do a testing, press F12, and I'm going to say console. And let me just go and the prompt API, and you see it gives you a prompt like this. Yeah. And now I will say wow. You see it prints wow on the UI. Yeah, console. So that's what this prompt API does. It's going to give you the text. This text, you use it and create your dynamic fields based on that. Let's run this app now once again. It's going to be more interesting now. Rather than hard-coded text every time, we are going to get a nice prompted app. Let's click on add column. Prompt comes and I will say online theorytrainings.com. That's my label. I want enter, and voila. Can you see the label of my column is now column, and the input field is onlinetheorytrainings.com. Superb. That's what we wanted, guys. So this is how you can achieve a dynamic edition of the column by the user, and also dynamic edition of the input fields. Moving to the last topic, when we learned about DOM structure in UI5, we see SAP UI5 automatically creates the DOM structure for us. and it's very difficult to directly understand this DOM structure. Rather, you would be more interested to know which control was used to build this UI. So many times you see in Fiori application, your manager comes to you and say, hey, look at this Fiori app, or a functional consultant or a business comes to you as a developer. You are in a developer profile, and they will say, hey, can you please find out which control is used here? Can you use the same control also in our project, right? They may show you a standard Fiori app delivered by SAP, and they say, hey, can you investigate and find out which is this control on the UI which SAP used, and we would like to use the same control. So for that reason, we can use something called SAP UI5 Inspector. It's a free tool available in Chrome Store. So just search for UI5 Inspector plugin, enter, and you can see UI5 Inspector Google Chrome plugin. Let's go inside this plugin, and now you can add this plugin to your Chrome browser. Yeah, it's free. So you see, I have already added this. That's the reason you will see the moment I added, it is now saying me to remove, and you can see on the top of the browser, it's visible also over here, but it's not active. Why? Because right now it don't find a UI5 DOM. The moment it finds a UI5 DOM, it becomes active. So now you see it's active here. I can click on this and it opens. It shows me the version of my current SAP UI5 which I'm using in my app. It gives me a link to the documentation kit. So that's what it does here. But magic is when you press F12. In the F12, you get an additional UI5 tab over here. Look at this tab, amazing. That's the UI5 tab which you got in there now. Yeah. So this UI5 tab can be used to investigate the elements properly. Okay, let me just dock it in the right side so that I can show you side by side investigating this UI element. And now I can go to this UI5 tab, and you can see this is what is going to give you the complete control information. So you see, we have a content area, the complete page. Inside this content area, we have an XML view. Inside the XML view, we have the SAP UI table control. So here it's not the DOM. It's telling you all the properties of this control, which is the exact control the developer have used while creating the app. It was SAP UI table control, and all the properties of UI5 control are visible on the right hand side. So you can exactly replicate a control which is delivered by SAP by inspecting that control with the UI5 inspector, all its properties. Sometimes you are very confused. You look at a standard app or any app developed by your colleague, you are unable to achieve the similar result. How did they achieve it, right? Your manager expect you to achieve also same result what your colleagues have achieved. So for that, they will give you reference of others app. So when you go to others app, how do you know which control exactly was used, right? Very difficult for you to find. So UI5 inspector is here who will help you. You can see complete proper UI5 structure of your XML, exact XML structure is visible with the button, with the control names completely available. You can see control names are available. If you want to escape the namespace, you can do that. You see now namespace is not visible. Which library this control coming from, that's not visible. You can make it visible again. And for every single control, you can see all the properties. All the properties, guys, are visible over here. Superb. So that's what you can use via UI5 Inspector, a very powerful tool, very powerful tool for you to find out the things. You can see show attributes, don't show attributes. So like this, you can just enable, disable these options. You can go to bindings, you can check the bindings. So maybe I want to see what is the binding done for this gentleman, or what is the binding done for my table column. You can actually do that. So just go to your table control, go to your column, column. It's here. Select a text, and you can see here the binding for the path was done with this one. That's your label binding, because the labels are coming from I18N. Yeah. And then you can similarly see records are getting created, and for each record the binding is done with the subpath. You can see MP tab row 0, similarly in row 1, row 2, and so on. You can I think you can change this binding over here and see the result of this. Yeah, I hope so. We can just try this. Never tried it. Okay, we cannot change, but at least you can see the binding mode. You can see here which model is used. You can see many times you have asked me, guys, Anubhav, how to check which model was used in the binding. How can we check that? This is where you can go and check the model information, that which control is bound to which model, which type of model, guys. Yeah. So that's an amazing stuff. That's a UI5 inspector, very powerful, very helpful tool, available for free for all of you. With that, it's a wrap on Anubhav Learning Series video. Thank you so much for being there with me. As usual, I really enjoy when you guys comment on my videos. It inspires me a lot to give you more and more content on like this on the internet. If you think this video has helped you, please share it with others. Please share and make it helpful for others to learn together in this new technology world, in this world of new SAP world, where there is lack of direction. A lot of people are struggling hard to learn things in the right direction. Share with them my full stack development video, which gives a good direction to them. With that, thank you so much once again. Have a nice day and goodbye. All right, guys, now you can ask your questions. That's the video for YouTube I had prepared. So, ek tir do nishane I have used. So that same video will go to YouTube. Now from here on, whatever we record will not go to the YouTube. So please go ahead and ask your questions for now. How did you get UI5 tab? I'm not able to bring it up. You have to install this plugin. Have you installed this plugin? Is this plugin active for you when you run the app? That's when you're going to get that tab automatically. Press F12. You are going to get that tab automatically. Please install this plugin first of all. UI5 Inspector plugin. Okay. That you have to install. Once you do that, come to the UI5 application, only UI5 application. And then you will see this button gets active. Then press F12. And then you can see this UI5 tab will be available for you. All right.
Hi Anubhav,
Hi.
Alok here.
Yes, please.
I want to ask you. Actually, I was trying to add a new row to existing table.
Let's try that
So
out.
not
2 minutes it
yeah,
will take.
yeah, it
Go,
got
go
stuck
and do that.
somewhere.
Don't worry, we will do that. Let's go and add a button first of all to add a dynamic row. Maybe I will add the row with the help of my input fields here. So I will just come
Can
here.
I share my screen? Can I share my screen?
Whatever data you will enter in the input field, that's what I want to add it as a row. And I will say here, add this as a row, and I will say press. And guys, it makes more sense to use JSON model at this time because JSON model is very important. XML model we don't use much, as I have told you. So I will flip to JSON model at this point. So I will go back and change my XML model to JSON model now. So this was my XML model. We are flipping and changing it back to the JSON model. So just change it to JSON model. And now let's come down. And there's a little change in the binding as usual. For JSON model, it's /empty tab. That's all is required. Let's quickly test it. And yeah, looks good. It's getting the data now from the JSON model. And now on add this row. So I will enter some data here, 100 something, and I say anything, something I will enter over here, and that data should go as part of my my table now. Okay. First of all, you have to kill the binding. So please kill the binding because binding won't allow you to enter any data anymore in the input fields. So I will kill this binding of simple form which is done with the element. So let me just do that because this binding will not allow you to let do anything. Yeah. So I will also kill this employee number, or maybe we will bind it with something else. So I will do a static binding with simple form now, and I will say, hey, please bind it with empstr. Let's do that. It's /empstr/ I'm bringing back my employee structure binding employee fields. So please bring that back. I request you to please mute your line. So now you see we have got the binding again with the empstr entity set. So whatever data you enter in the employee fields will go into empstr structure, right? By default. So let's do that. Now I will come back here to the button. So I'll just come to the button coding. And where is my button? What is the ID of the button? It's add row, I guess, right? So it's on add row. Did I put the action? No, I didn't put the action. So let me put comma on add row function. And now here we will read first the employee structure. So emp str data, which is there on the UI. It's a two-way binding, guys. So whatever data you enter on the UI in emp str, it will go and set in emp str automatically. So just get that. So first get the model object, because we would need the model object again and again. This dot get view dot get model. Step number one, get the model object. Play with the model, guys, as much as you can. And get the data from step two, get the data from input fields, which are connected to LPSTR. Sorry, model dot get property, employee structure. And now get the data from the table. And now get the add the new record to table. Emp tab data dot is push. That's the array function. Push a new record in the array of emp tab. We have pushed it, this new record. And then step 5, set data back to the model in emp tab. So any changes in the model will reflect on the UI immediately. So this is your newly created emp tab to model dot set property. A new emp tab is now updated with a new extra record. वो डाल देता हूं मैं emp tab. Voila, and save this. Done, guys. Done, 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 done. That's what it is. This is what was the new requirement. Done. Nothing else. Remember the concept. You will be able to achieve the result of your choice. By default, the element binding is bringing it up. I don't know. So maybe I'm going to change the values. So let me just change the values. 8, something I put, and I'll say I will say Aquaman, and I'll say 999999999, and I will say US dollar. Are we ready to see this data? Currently table does have only 5 records, 6 records up to 1005, which is last Isorum. And I'm going to say add a new record please for me. And I say add this record, and voila, there you go. You can see the record has been added now to the table. Superb. Superb. Push is not enough. You have to set this new employee table.
Please repeat, why did we add set prop?
You have to set this employee table back to the JSON model. You have to play with the model, guys. Model is the object which is supplying the data to the UI. You have to play with the model. This is your internal table or work area like above. The screen program and internal table are two different things. You always play with your internal table. Then you do set table for first display in the ELV. ELV will not know that you change the data. You have to make it available to the ELV on the UI. Similarly here, you have to play with the data. This is your local work area. This is your local model. This is the model where you are playing with the data. When you change the data, the UI will take the data up to date data automatically, because it's a two-way binding. That's why JSON model is used heavily across every single UI5 application. I have not seen a single app which has not used till today, which has not used JSON, OData, and resource model. Every single app use it. Every single. Hope that answer your question, Alok. How to add a record table.
Yes, Anubhav. Actually, I have one more question, like add row level buttons. Like I want to add two buttons like change and delete and row level in the dynamic column.
Okay, you want to add a button to the table? It's very easy. It's very
no, dynamically. That to the dynamic column. You want to add to, yeah.
See, today we learned how to add a column dynamically, right? We have already learned
Yes.
how to add a column dynamically. You want to add a button now, right? You want to add a button. So see, template is what controls the type of the column, guys. Instead of text, use button. Stopping you. इतना simple है. Use the concept. Use the concept. Template is what controls the type of column. We already learned how to add a dynamic column. Now we just change the text to the button because template controls the type of column. अब आएगा मजा. Save कर दो. Come back, refresh the page. Watch out. When I add this dynamic column, it's gonna add it as a button, guys. Add column, and I say voila. Enter. See voila column with a click me button on every row. कितना तकलीफ हुआ sir?
Anuva, I want to add actually two button. One button I can able to add, but two button I cannot able to add.
Buttons you can add it easily. I'll tell you how to group the controls. So there is a control called Hbox control. SAP.H box control, horizontal box. This control has a content aggregation in which you can add multiple things. It has an item segregation, which now you can add multiple controls. Horizontal box. So many times you see there are multiple controls inside same column. This is how they do it. Horizontal box. I've added now two button. Let me use something nice. I will use here an icon property. And I'll say change icon. And this one I say icon property. Delete icon. This is what am I doing? I am adding now Hbox control, which encapsulates more than one control now. In this, you can add hundreds of control. So ultimately, the column is of type Hbox. Each Hbox has two buttons. One is the change button, one is the delete button. Come back. आ जाओ sir. Refresh. और पूछो क्या चाहिए सब मिलेगा इधर. Enter. Voila. There you go. Delete button, change button. I think icon name is not correct. I have to go and check the icon. SAP UI5 Icon Explorer. Let me check the icon explorer SAP Ui5 to find out the right icon. You see there are so many icons on SAP Ui5 Icon Explorer, and you can just go and check this. I also showed you in chapter number 12 how to pick up the icons, and you see so many of them are there. So I want to change icon type, pencil type of icon. So let me search if pencil is there. Yes, edit is there. We have edit, right? Use this edit. So I'm gonna go and say edit. Save this. Let's come back and refresh the page. Maja Vigio. Refresh. And now I click on add button and I say superb. And you see there's an edit and delete button. और क्या चाहिए sir? और पूछिए. Give me more guys. Give me more challenges. But just for the sake of asking, don't ask. If you really have a challenge, then ask.
Thanks, Anuva. Actually, I tried long time this one. It's not
Sir, I'm
working.
here to solve your problem, sir. Go ahead.
Actually, template is actually content of 0 to 1. So that's why it is not taking the multiple content.
Right. Template is 0 to 1. So you have to play around with it. Group and send one object. That object has two objects inside. Group and send. Do you know how did I learn this? I looked at a standard UI5 app. One fine day, my manager came to me, hey Anubhav, can you build an app like this? Which has an edit delete button in the same column. Simply I go to UI5 Inspector and I checked how SAP have done this. If SAP could do this, I can do this. I've checked the UI5 Inspector, found out how the control aggregation is. I found out Hbox control over there. This Hbox control. I simply added it. Alright, that's okay. It's a good learning for all of us. There are many things which I cannot do today, but I can find out. I can find out the answer because I know the basics of UI5 framework. Okay, I know the basics
Anubhav,
of UI5 framework. Yeah, go ahead, please.
yeah, I have a small doubt here in CSS. Just now we created, right? Can you go to XML
Yes, please.
table?
Mm-hmm.
No, not this XML view, our table.
XML view, we didn't put anything related to CSS at all. We had gone to controller, and in the controller, in the init,
Yeah,
I have added the
my
class.
doubt. We can directly give class name here, right?
Why not?
In the
Why not?
ID.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You
So,
come and give a class name here,
okay,
like this.
okay.
Possible, possible.
So in this case, we can we know in the control we
This
write
method is not
something.
required. You're right.
Yes, yes. Okay, okay,
Okay. Yes.
okay.
Yes, you're right. You
Yeah.
can do that.
Thank
You
you.
understood the concept.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Hello, Anubhav.
और कोई मेरा दोस्त जो लाया है
Hello,
मेरे लिए
Anubhav.
challenge? Yes,
Yeah,
please.
this is Raj Kishore.
Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, see, till now we are taking the data from JSON, right?
Right.
So I know this is the right time to ask this question. So it is possible to take the data from Notepad file, which is on server. Is this
We
possible?
are
Or can you
no.
please help me with how we can?
Okay. Point one. We are taking the UI5 can always take the data from model. UI5 cannot take data from Notepad file. Okay. The model takes the data from Notepad file. Okay. So this is what is
Okay,
happening. This file which you had put here, mock data, this is actually a Notepad file only.
okay.
So whatever Notepad
But
you have,
this is in
convert that to.
structure way, like. So there is something we can say that in slash we can use emp str, then we can go to emp name, right? So
Right.
in Notepad there is some text is there, and that is end with like new line.
You can
So is this?
convert, there are a lot of tools on internet, convert text to JSON.
Mhm.
So if a large amount of Notepad file, you can just convert that text to JSON. Okay. You can pass text online editor, view edit format, JSON online, I don't know, a string to JSON online converter. See. So there are a lot of converters. You pass a text file and that converts it to a JSON. Okay. You have to do that. So build JSON from text, something of that sort you can search. So I understand your problem. You have a text data and that you want to use it. You cannot use the text data directly with JSON model because format has to be JSON. इसीलिए the name of the model is JSON model.
Okay.
Understood? So you
And
cannot do
one
that.
more, yeah, one more thing is there, that file is in server. So is this possible to take that if we convert there, or we will take the file,
So
that
which
we need to create
framework
the
you
path
use to
also.
connect to server?
um,
Okay, just to show you,
I'm not
it is
sure it is.
possible.
Yeah.
There is a JavaScript method called $.get. Okay, it's called Ajax method, asynchronous Java and XML. So I will show you an Ajax call which will download a file from internet. Okay, so let me show you Ajax $.get. So this way you can get the data from server. This is the method to get something from server. So you can see on button click they are doing it. They are calling some demo test ASP and displaying that result on the screen. Okay, this code they are calling. Let me show you. Press F12, go to console, put it this one. X call, press enter. Error $.get is not a function. Of course, jQuery is not loaded here. That's why it's giving this error. But I can use this call and make sure that I will use this whole thing, demo test, this whole gentleman, because that's where the call will be sent. So this whole URL, this is now a server address. This is how your address of server will look like. And we are going to use this $.get call to call the server. HTTP request we are making using $.get, and we are telling that this is my server address where you have this file. Please load this file content in my computer. Your UI5 application is acting as a client. You're making a server call this address and you're loading a file, and whatever data is coming, you're bringing and printing that data here. Inside this, you can do the JSON preparation, prepare your JSON and display that data on the UI. Let me make a call this one because SAP UI5 already has pre-installed, pre-configured this thing called jQuery. So I will add a button, Guys, this is a heavy dose of antibiotic for many of you.
Yes,
Very
sir.
heavy dose of antibiotic. If you're not able to understand, don't get into it. It's a very, very, very heavy dose of antibiotic. Call some server. Press. It's basically making a request and getting a response from internet by making a service request. You can make a call to internet to do anything. I will show you an amazing example built by one of my students who is pulling the latest news from BBC different channels actually with the RSS feed call he is making. I will show you that in a minute. So on request, let's put this method on request. Very heavy dose of antibiotic. So now I put this $get and this is gonna get the data for us. And let's save this, and it's going to print this data on the UI. Now let's test this. I'm going to come back to the UI, let's enter, and let's call that button on request, call some server. I called the server, it's F12. If there's something wrong, you can see access to this is denied. Okay, this is another problem, guys. This is called cross origin resource sharing, CORS policy of browser. You are currently running your app into localhost, okay, and you're directly trying to make a call to W3 school, which W3 school will not allow. As a result of that, this has failed. So what I will do here in this case is I will try to make a call to a resource which is accessible from internet. Maybe I go to my website onlinefurytrainings.com, and from there I will try to see if I can read some text. So maybe I just use this whole thing, onlinefurytrainings.com, and Ajax call to this, and whatever data I have on my website will come here. I'm making a call to my website now. Let's see if this allows a cross origin. It depends on a resource on the internet which allows CORS. If website allows you CORS, then you're going to see the data, otherwise you're not. Click on the call server. I think my website also CORS protected. So you can't make a cross origin resource call. You see, guys, can't make this. So what will happen is, for that reason, we create something called destinations in WebID. It's a little more advanced topic, but I think just for your answer, you can use $.get an Ajax call to load some data. Maybe I'll just go and check Ajax test avoiding CORS. Okay. Let me see if somebody can give an Ajax test API without using CORS. No, we don't have it here actually. No, we cannot actually. We cannot right now. This is how you can make a call to a server and get the response. If your file is in server, pass the server address. As a result of this function, you're going to get your data inside. Here you prepare your JSON and do the binding. Okay.
Okay. And one more question is there is a one bootstrap parameter like data dash sap.ui dot asynchronous is equal to failed and true. That value is sometimes it's what is this? Can you please let me know? I'm just putting into chat windows.
Data hyphen SAP
SAP.
hyphen data async, right?
Yeah, this is that value.
Reload async, right?
Yeah, ui slash async is equal to false, and sometimes it's private.
Right. You can see it enables the runtime to load the modules of all declared libraries asynchronously in background. So I will tell you the reason. See, right now what will happen? You can see the dependencies in scaffolding here. Can you see these dependencies
Mhm.
in scaffolding? What does these dependencies doing? They has to be loaded, right? So when you're starting your application, similar to this controller, there will be 5, 6, 7 controllers in your app, right? You will not have one controller in one app. You may have sometimes an app with 5 controllers, 6 controllers. All those controllers has dependencies, isn't it? All those dependencies will have dependencies. So asynchronous true means you are saying, please load all those dependencies asynchronously, which means while am I working with the app, it will start loading all the dependencies of all the modules automatically asynchronously. I don't have to wait. So sometimes it takes time to load these dependencies. Because of that, your app itself slows down. So making asynchronous loading speed up your app while you are working with the view. While the view is getting loaded, same time these dependencies will get loaded asynchronously. So you will see the view gets loaded first, and then parallelly the dependencies are getting loaded. As a result of that, your view will appear faster. But if you make asynchronous false, what system does? The moment view loads, it goes to controller. It first load these dependencies. After loading is done, then only it will display view to the user, which may lead to a little lag, because this module dependency loading time takes a little bit of fraction of seconds. So it is negligible. But synchronous asynchronous means whether would you like to load these module dependencies synchronously or asynchronously. Synchronous means the view will not display to the user until this dependencies loading is complete. Asynchronous means view will be displayed to the user, and parallelly asynchronously these libraries will keep on get loading. They will keep on get loading. Hope that answer your question for async loading.
But it's totally changed that UI. See, suppose I have created one index file, index.html, and one main view. So it's if I'm making it true, then the both the file means what we can say, the both the UI it's showing. Means index I have created one default container that is also is viewable, and then in main I have created one page, that one also, but it come one by one. I think I
That
can
is
share
your
that.
UI design. That even whether you put that or not put that, result is going to be same. You can try that out. I'm 100% sure it has no impact on the UI actually. No impact on the UI. It is
Okay,
because
then
you would have added an app control here around this, and then you would have also
yes,
added a page control in the view also around this. It's
yes.
because of that. So it has nothing to do with that async loading. I'm 100% sure.
Okay, then what I will do, I will make a document and I will share with you with email.
Sure,
Then we can have better.
sure. If you can prove that changing just by that, don't touch anything else. Just change that parameter to true
Yes,
or false and show if the UI is changing. Then I will investigate and get back to you.
yes, sure. Because of this parameter only and true and false, it's changing. Surely I will share with you with the email.
Okay, we'll check that.
Thank you.
Any other questions,
Yeah, yeah, Anubhav.
please?
Yeah, actually, I have a basic question. Generally, when we go to that SDK library,
Mm-hmm.
in that we generally see one class and one control sample.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, what is the basic difference between the two? Both are same, or if it is different, then what is the difference?
Okay, so here this table, it's giving you the documentation, technical documentation, what aggregations you have, what are all the buttons you can put, what options you have, what properties you can put. That's what it's giving, technical documentation. Sample will give you ready-made sample which you can copy paste and build your UI, which people are doing right now. Just going to sample, copy pasting and making the UI ready. So if you come to samples, you would see a lot of samples over here, and in these samples almost same controls are there. You can search a table there also, here also, but ultimate thing is when you search for it, let me just search, you can see a table. You can ready-made create a control. So here you will get ready-made XML code as a sample to experience ki kaisa banega. So there you're getting documentation only, but here you're getting sample to create similar objects. So that's what is the main difference. So maybe if I go for button, you will see a lot of samples for button.
Yeah, yeah, actually, Anu, I am referring to that control sample means when we are clicking on any API reference, whenever the page loads, on top of the hub, there is written class and another was control sample. Go to API reference
Oh, there.
and
I got it. So it
yes,
will navigate you to sample only. So if you go here, and there is something called sample return. It will navigate you to the sample tab only. If you go to a control, there is something called a sample here. So
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying now. So there will be something called,
Control.
so maybe I go to button, table के लिए नहीं है. So I go to button and you will see something called a sample here. So where is sample? Where is it? इसमें तो नहीं दिख रहा है. Where did you see that? You can jump.
Yeah.
Here, control sample. Yes. You see, click on this. Watch out. Current selection is API reference. You click on this. It is navigating you to samples only. See, it has navigated you to the sample.
So it is just showing the examples.
Yeah, it's just showing some examples. ये देखो, these are all different types of buttons they created. Disable button, red button, green button. How did they create? Just click on this top right corner. It will take you to the XML code of the button. And this is the XML code. As it is, you can copy paste this code to create those buttons also on your UI. And see, they've also used horizontal box because they want to align all of them in the same line. H box control to align everything in the same line.
Okay, thanks.
Anu,
Yes, please.
I have one question. Actually, I was playing with the functions, the event handlers. Like I want to pass a function, like in the case of attach press, like when a button is clicked, I want to attach a function. So I'm trying to attach a function to this attach press method. I was doing a mistake like passing, giving parentheses. So the moment I add parentheses, the function is getting called immediately when I load the app. Like when the moment I press run HTML, the function is also getting called even without pressing any button. So then I realized, okay, this is because of the parentheses that I passed in the attach press.
Because
then I removed them.
Declared itself a function itself. Anonymous function you declared there. Parentheses if you put.
Okay, so my question is, I'm able to find out the solution, but the thing is, if I want to pass some parameter to that function, so in that case, I have to call the parentheses, right? So how do I achieve that?
No, I don't think so. You have to call. So from XML view, you are thinking to pass a parameter?
Yes,
No, that's not allowed. You can't pass a parameter from XML view to an event handler function. You cannot. And I don't think there is a need also for that. Because all your use cases can be supported without passing it.
Yeah, that's what I realized.
Invalid use case.
So the only case that I found is that controller, and the control is all by default is available. So that itself is ruled out.
Right. So don't have to pass any parameter to it. Now, another question here, how to create global variable. We have already discussed. Please watch the previous class video. You can see I've already showed you how to create a global variable at controller level. This was already covered. Please watch the previous class video, Mahesh, for that. All right. Okay, cool, guys. If that's it, then thank you so much for joining today's class. And I'll catch you up. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah. So suppose I have a method in controller class. Can I call that method in XML view?
You have one method in
controller class.
That's what we are doing right now. You see the buttons, they are all methods in the controller. On request, on magic, they are all methods in the controller. See, they are doing it. We are actually calling them already.
No, actually, I want to use it like some. There is a method. It will return like true or false. So I want to make enable disable particular label, particular input field according to that. So I'll call that method in enable property.
You want to call one method, another method?
Yes.
Simple.
No. One method will create. One method will create here, and I will call that method in enable property of this XML view. You try to understand what I'm trying to say?
It does not support that actually. You cannot attach enable property with a function. Enable is a property. It's not an event. Functions can only be attached. Can only be attached to event handlers. Events. Press is an event.
Okay.
If you see visible is a property. This is why there is a clear separation between them. You can't put a function here. It won't work, guys.
Okay.
It's a property. Only events can have functions. Properties cannot.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And one last question.
Please.
And can I share my screen?
1 second. The question also, what is the difference between M table and UI table? I'll come to it. It's planned in the course heavy dose of antibiotic right now. We will discuss that in upcoming days. So still we did not ended our course. Don't think it's a last class. There's a lot to come. This class was needed because you guys had a lot of open things. So I thought of planning an extra class for all of you so that I can at least satisfy, because I am usually weekdays not getting time these days. So it's very difficult. So keep all of you happy. It's my duty to keep all of you happy. This is the reason I had planned this extra class. And on timely basis, whenever there's a need, I will do that on time to time basis as an extra boost for all of you. But you should show an extra commitment also similarly. ऐसा नहीं है कि सब कुछ मैं करूं. What have you given to the country? Don't ask what country has given to you. What have you given to it? Similarly, what have you given to me? Yeah, that's what. Then extra commitment you want from me, you need to show an extra commitment, not in terms of monetary. I'm not asking extra fees, but in terms of extra effort from your side. What have you done extra effort? That's what is important for me. So can you have that extra effort also demonstrated? I am ready to do hard work with you. Are you ready to do that same with me? You can check. कोई trainer ऐसा नहीं करेगा. I guarantee you, no trainer will compromise on their personal timing, and they will also not compromise on extra stretching of the classes. Almost every class we stretch about 30 minutes till today. Every single class, though the class is planned for 1 hour, we stretched because most of the institutes, their plan is to accommodate more and more students in a given time frame. Their deadline is 40 hours. If a trainer does not complete the course in 40 hours, they will actually fire back the trainer. They will actually cut the remuneration of the trainer because trainer did not complete the course on time. But with my case, मैं अपनी मर्जी का मालिक हूँ. Nobody is there on top of me sitting on my head and telling me what to do or not. So in that case, I want to give you best out of this training, best to every single one of you. This is the reason we are extending, even we are taking extended sessions, guys. All right, you can share your screen. Who was that?
Yeah, me, Raj.
Raj. Okay, I'll give you presenter rights. But this one will be, yeah.
Okay.
Resource model is always one way because the reason is you never change labels at runtime. You never. Okay, you never change labels at runtime. Labels and their translations are very, very static. That's not data. It's a fixed data. It's a fixed values, fixed literals. So this is the reason we don't need a two-way binding for resource model at all. They are just labels. All right. They are just labels, guys. So we don't need two-way binding for resource model. It's only pick and show, pick and show, pick and show. Okay.
It's asking to switch to desktop or open store.
Yes, please switch to desktop.
Yeah, it's downloading.
Yeah, let it download.
See, meanwhile, I'm just asking my question. See, I have one view, and that view I want to divide into div section. So there is something we can say that there is a few
that is
SAP
called
system
master detail application. It is still planned in our course. We will talk about work list and master detail application. If you have a complete view, you want to divide in two parts, like you can see on current web IDE, we have here the setup. So here it's divided into two parts. On the left side, you have master section. On the right side, you have detail section. That's planned. It's very next session actually, which we are planning on Monday, Tuesday. Next week, this will come definitely, Raj. So that time we will discuss about it. Okay. We have this concept. It's called split app control. we will use that, and we'll divide the whole UI into two parts, the master and the details section. Is that okay, Raj? All right, cool. Okay, guys, so that's it for the day. Thank you so much for joining the class. Have a nice day and goodbye.